be, but the predictions are it's going to be worse for people in Africa.
Questions? So we've got 2 microphones here, so if you'd like a question to ask, please put your hand up. There's one down the front here. One sec, we'll just get a microphone to you.
On your map of the partnership countries participating, Francophone countries.
Yeah, just need to go in quite close.
Francophone countries seem to be rather sparse. Is that a cultural reason, or are there some other reasons? The French main interest in birds has been the best way to cook them rather than watch them. Drifted down into their former French-speaking colonies.
Right. You are right. Francophone countries may be fewer in number now, but what is happening now is actually Francophone or Anglophone kind of terminology is starting to kind of disappear. We do not identify ourselves like that now. But it's true, there could be some influence. The first person I saw watching birds from Europe was Lincoln Fishpool. He's at the back. So I didn't get to meet somebody from France. So it was most likely that there could have been some influence. But there are quite a number that are coming up now. We have got a list of potential partners, and quite a number of former French colonies are actually on the list. So as I said, if I'm going to come back in 20 years' time, probably you'll see more Francophone oriented countries on the list than now. But you're right, yes, there are still fewer former French colonies on the list than the Anglophone. Yeah.
Question at the back. Paul is on. Sorry, Hannah.
There's quite a movement about conservation organisations in Britain being involved and actually buying or helping to buy areas. ABC is obviously assisting with this, but I think RSPB and in Sierra Leone. How do you feel about that? How important is that going to be, that UK-based conservation organisations are actually buying parts of Africa for this? Is that a good idea or a bad idea?
Very good question. I don't think it is either or, bad or good. In Africa, we have got a history of private reserves or private land. And in Uganda, for example, we have got a lot of, well, not a lot now, but quite a big chunk of forestry. 70% of forests in Uganda are actually on private land, owned privately. So it's not something new, but I think what we are looking at is really securing some of those very, very critically threatened sites. Sites that we think if we don't do that, then they would disappear. So it's not something new, but I think this will be an addition to already efforts that have been done by private landowners in Africa. So it will not be either or. But I think you have got a good point in a way that we have got some other people who are coming to buy land in Africa. So we've got to be careful that we don't get mixed up with those ones who are coming to buy land in Africa for other reasons. There is a lot of land opening for expansion of agriculture. Some people want to call it land grabbing, but they are invited into the countries by governments. They are given big tracts of land, and they plant something else. In Uganda, we've got people who come to plant trees. They actually cut down forests and plant exotic trees. So we need to make sure that we don't get mixed up with some of those kind of investments. But I think it's not either or. I think it is good to secure some of these sites which are very, very threatened.
Just to clarify one point, if African Bird Club gets involved, we won't be buying the land. We'll be giving the money to an African organisation to buy the land and to manage it. So It's not about us buying the land. There's a question over here. If we just get the microphone over.
Thank you, Achilles. That was a very good talk, but it was pretty depressing. There was the odd thing that was kind of good, but mostly it was depressing. In your experience in Uganda or in the rest of Africa, have you come across some key decision makers or leaders who are kind of shining lights that give us hope for the future? Or are they all kind of, forgetting all the treaties they've signed in that when it comes to the kind of economic development of the country or whatever?
Yeah, it depends on where you make the cutoff point. If you're looking at the national leaders or presidents, I must admit we don't have many. But there are quite a number of people in Africa who are committed to conservation. In even some of our governments, which are a little bit. So there are some. Of course, if you came to Uganda and talk to President Museveni, he'll tell you he's the best conservationist in Uganda. He has designated the most national parks. He has, put together the best laws, on environment and all that kind of stuff. But whether they are doing anything on ground is a completely different matter. But yes, we do have quite good and some committed conservationists, committed leaders in senior level that are important, that look at conservation as important. Just as an example, the Mabira Forest campaign, if we didn't have government support, actually, but indirectly government support, probably wouldn't have managed. But we had ministers who were committed to it. They would go into a cabinet meeting, and by the time they finished, we would have the minutes of the cabinet meeting. And they were given to us by the ministers who were involved in those meetings. So they are there. Well, because of political reasons, they probably don't come out strongly. But yes, they're still interested, and that's what we need to build on, those commitments that we have got in senior government positions.
Okay. One final question? Or not? I don't see any hands. No? Okay. Achilles, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Well, Roger Safford has been a frequent visitor to the Malagasy region since 1988, and his PhD was on conservation of endemic passerines of Mauritius. Since 2001, he's been responsible for supporting the work of BirdLife International in Madagascar, and most recently, of course, he's been the co-author of the final volume of The Birds of Africa, which specialises on that region. Today, he's going to tell us about the diversification of the region's birds and about some of the recent discoveries on the natural history and taxonomy of some of the endemic species. Ladies and gentlemen, Roger Safford.